diseases might cause, for example, diarrhea. Well, if the toilet isn't clean, then the disease can be transmitted to somebody else. We already mentioned air. An important other one is food. So by eating food that is, for example, should be cooked and is eaten raw, we can get infected. Or if the food isn't washed properly. A vector is another important one, and a vector is actually, for example, an insect. So mosquitoes are a known one that can transmit the disease. They often won't get sick from the disease themselves, but when they bite humans, they can transmit the disease. We already mentioned objects, and then other ones are animals or through sex. So now we know how these diseases spread, but how can we measure the spread of the disease? Well, this is something I do for my work, and it's called epidemiology, so a very difficult word. But today we're all going to try to become epidemiologists. How this virus spreads? By looking at characteristics of the virus itself. So for example, it can make a lot of copies in the human cells, which we call replication. And for some viruses this might be faster than for other viruses. So we can test this kind of stuff with laboratory experiments. So these are very important fundamentals for research on viruses. But today we're going to look into epidemiology, which is mostly the calculations that are behind the spreads.
So we understand how the virus spreads through a country or over the world, and therefore you can take the right measurements in trying to stop the virus, because only if you understand how a virus moves through the population, through a country, then you can try to do the best to stop it.
So the first thing I want to explain is prevalence. And what prevalence actually means is the presence of a virus in a certain population. A population is a group of people, and in our case we're going to look in this group of people, which is the class, and see how the prevalence of the virus is. So I would all want you to put on your heads like this.
We can do that, right? We can handle that.
So if I throw it here, you can pick up a sticky note, and now you're infected and can throw it to somebody else in the room.
Oh, no, you keep the sticky note. You keep the sticky note. Oh, that virus took a detour.
So we can calculate the prevalence by dividing the number of infected people.
How much was that again? 6?
By the total population.
How much was that?
Exactly, and do that times 100%. So we have a percentage of people that is infected within our population. And in our case, that would be...
You can do that by half.
Yeah.
Does anyone know that by 6 divided by 20 times 100%? Good that you brought your notebooks. Because we're going to make a couple of notes today. The cards. So they can play either cytokines, or T cells, or antibodies, and there are a couple of other things, but you will see them when they come around, and we are at the tables to help you. But they are sometimes specific for an organ. So if you have an antibody in the intestine card, and the virus is in the lung, that doesn't do much. After they play a card, the virus team is gonna spread. And they spread by throwing the dice.
Mutation.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, by playing the card. But I just call it any different. They spread by throwing the dice, and the number of that you throw comes somewhere between 2 and 12 with 2 dice. That's how many new virus particles they can put on the game. But before they do that, they can also play a card. They have cards in their hand. They draw a new card, and that's the virus can mutate. Again, making use of these lovely virus particles. As I explained, if we have antibodies against these purple coronavirus, and the virus is gonna mutate, it's gonna change, then these purple antibodies, do they still bind to the blue coronavirus? They're useless. So the virus can play cards to mutate. So it can remove antibodies, it can remove cytokines, it can move drugs, and there's a card that it can spread to a new organ, because the virus wants to spread through the whole body. As long as you don't play that card, you're not allowed to move to the other organs. Then you have to stay in your organ. And you're going to fill up the rows with new virus particle, and if you make it to the bottom, you win. And only if you have to play another card, then a liver, an intestine or a lung, then you can move there. You can jump. So it's not, if you, for example, start in the liver and you want to move to the intestine, that's possible. You don't need to go via the lungs. But we'll explain that also on your table.
So the goal for the virus is to come all the way down to the board. So all the way here. And the goal of the host or the immune system is to block the virus in a way that it can't spread anymore. Okay?
And because we're going to do some virology here and immunology, let's put on the lab coats as part of the game.
Yeah.
We're not doing some real experiments, we're doing experiments in a game, but I think it's nice to start with 3 cards. And as I just said, just put them out open so we can all see them, because that makes it easier for me to help you. And if it is going well, we can start really keeping them for yourself, because then the immune system can't help. So pick 3 cards and put them, and the other card deck you can just put here. Yes. Cytokines when it comes in play. And you guys, you can move to the lung. You have an antibody escape in the lung, and you have an antibody escape in the liver. So now you can start with infecting with 5 particles, 1 organ. Which one are you gonna?
The lung.
But you can move to the lung with this card. So if you start in the liver, for example, then you can play this card if you want to also infect the lungs. Do you understand? And if you are already in the lung, then moving to the lung doesn't make sense. And you can only move to another organ when you have tropism lung. There's also a tropism intestine or a tropism liver card.
So now you know which card you have.
So we start in the liver?
Then the virus can decide where does it want to start. Which organ do you
Now we can start the game. So we have an infection. I'm sick. I have liver problems.
Okay.
Often then your skin turns a little bit yellowish.
This is
And the immune system needs to come into action. You can start with picking a card.
now we only
Draw an extra card. One. You together.
and now you can choose do I want
This card we didn't explain yet.
or do I want
If you play it, you can draw 2 extra cards.
right?
So you can do it now, or you can save it for later if you need more options. If you have cards in front of you that can help you.
Now in the next turn
Where's the virus?
so that means the virus
Where's the virus currently? In the liver.
you guys are already in blood.
Might be a good option. Another that we didn't explain yet is the antivirals.
So what we're gonna do now, we're going
During the infection phase,
the virus will spread.
they're going to throw the 2 dice,
2
and
dice for that.
now they can have 7 extra particles. 2 is a little, but 7, and all the way up to the maximum is, if you put in drugs, antiviral therapy, you're going to steal 1 dice. And the virus can only throw it 1 because you're blocking, you're inhibiting the virus. So that could also be a good option to slow down the virus. So you have 2 options, antibodies or therapy. What do you want to do?
And what you can do now is
Or it
throw
can
1
move to
dice
other organ.
and see how many
Maybe it cannot go to the
cytokines
liver anymore,
you can
but it can
play.
throw in other organs. So
3.
the virus team
That means
draws an extra
you can
card. You draw a card.
3
You start always with
cytokines
drawing
down.
a card. So you have an extra option. So
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. The color doesn't really matter anymore.
antiviral resistance, if they
so you
play
can
the
place them
antiviral
wherever
card and
you
they
want.
steal a dice,
But if you
can
only have 3,
remove that card and you get your
they
dice.
might get
you become resistant
because you
against-
don't block the whole row.
But that's not a.
So
that's
it might
not
be
necessary
useful
now
to
because
place
there is
them
no
a bit lower.
drugs.
So next time you can maybe
So what do you
throw
want to
2
do? You have options,
and then
virus.
place another few, right? So place it somewhere in the lung.
But this is in the lung.
So.
Are there antibodies in the lung?
From getting all the way down, right?
So, oh, immune system, you have a problem.
Yeah.
You can remove the
Great.
antibodies.
Okay, so
The virus
now again,
removes the
we have
antibodies,
had
all your good work.
the immune system playing, so the virus.
And you can
Again.
throw the dice, or
Draw some cards.
on the
now-
other side.
Haha.
And you can
Cytokine
pick 6.
neutralization.